Everybody, happy Wednesday. I hope you have had a wonderful start to your week. And I'm glad that you all are still engaging with these videos. Hopefully, you enjoyed our first couple videos about the 7 habits of happy people. So, first, we talked about relationships. Today, we're going to talk about acts of kindness. So, let's jump right in here. And so today's lesson is centered around this idea that people who help others live happier lives. And the reading that you're going to have that's in this art or in the link, which will be in the YouTube description, is going to tell you all the different research that they've done to find this answer. But when you think about help and what helping means, you can think about volunteering. You can think about simple daily acts of kindness, big gestures that you do for people you care about. So if you can think of a big gift that you've given a friend that's really close to you, and maybe large gestures isn't the right word, but even gestures that are meaningful, that aren't huge display, but it's something that's meaningful, that counts as well. And then just caring about other people's well-being, it can help us feel better. Right, the feeling, the emotion of saying I care about this person and I'm going to do things because I care about them can actually help us feel better. So we're going to talk about a couple of theories of why we do this and look a little deeper into that before I let you off to read today's article. So we have this term, this would be a vocab word if we were in class, and pro-social behavior. And pro-social, so if you think of positive or for social, these are actions that are performed to help people either at an individual level or a group level. So if you can think of, helping one person find their class on the first day of school, that's a group, individual thing. Rather, helping a large organization or outside campus group do something, that would be considered that group level action. One of the questions that we have in social psych is why do people help? Like, what actually makes human beings want to help? What drives us to help? What part of us encourages us to want to help people? That's a really big question. And there's two kind of camps that debate this. And one camp's answer is there's pure altruism. We'll talk about that in a second. And the second camp says that it's egoistic altruism. So we'll talk about both of those as potential answers to this bigger question of why do people help. But first, I want to share this chart with you. And this is a chart gathered by a magazine at Berkeley University. And they looked at a bunch of research on why people help. Okay. And they've actually found that altruism, so helping, doing things for others, enhances our personal well being. And so you can see there's lots of categories. I won't read through them all because I want to get through the rest. But if you want to pause this and look through them, it might be helpful to see different ways that altruism benefits us as people. Okay, so the first camp is pure altruism, also known as just altruism as a word. This camp would argue that people do things just for the sake of doing it, right? They just do it because they want to, because they're happy to do it for someone else. They don't want anything back. They don't really seek like praise for it. They're just doing it just because. Okay. And they would argue that some people just have a genuine concern for others' well being and they don't want anything in return. They don't even want people to know that they're helping. They just want to help. This is what the pure altruism side would suggest. Okay. We also have the egoistic altruism side, and they say, yeah, no thank you, that's not true. People only help in exchange for some type of personal benefit. Now, when you think about a personal benefit, it doesn't just have to be money. Even the feeling that you get when you help someone. Someone who argues for egoistic altruism would say you are helping someone in order to have this feel good, or you are helping someone in order for them to later on help you, right? Or in some way to have some positive benefit. And I had a teacher in high school who said, we don't do anything, everything is selfish. Every single thing we do is tied to some benefit, whether it's now, later, small, big, hidden, or, apparent. They say we always do selfish things. And egoistic altruism, that camp would say absolutely 100% correct. So if you're with someone watching this video, a parent or a sibling, maybe pause and talk about what do you think about the difference between these two and which camp would you argue for? Okay, this may be a good time to just stop and have that type of conversation. And indirect or emotional awards are considered part of egoistic altruism. So you might say, okay, but feeling good about helping someone is not a reward. Well, in the egoistic altruism camp, they would argue, well, yes, it is, because you've done this and now you get something. It's not a physical thing, but you are getting a feeling or a boost because of this thing. So they keep a broad definition of what a reward is like, and that might be cheating on their side to boost their argument. Nonetheless, all of those things count within that. Okay, so now I want to talk about 4 different theories of why people help. And for each of these, I'll say which of the camps is associated with it, and you'll start to see a trend here really soon. So we're going to talk about the evolutionary perspective. For those of you who had me last semester, and even my nature and nurture students now, if you think of the evolutionary perspective, this is the same thing that we talked about when we talked about all the different types of perspectives in psych. There's social norms. So social norms, the social psych students, you have gotten this lesson already. Negative state relief, and then empathy altruism. Okay, so these are the 4 theories that I'm going to go over that will hopefully inform your reading and then the reflection activity that we do as well. So this first one is the evolutionary perspective, and I really love to think about human behavior in this way. It is so fascinating to consider that for however long humans have been on this planet, there have been these common challenges that we have, okay? And this perspective and this theory would argue that we help in order to help our group survive, 1, and 2, to have more mating opportunities. We help people in our group. So this group says, if you think way back to when humans didn't have phones and we didn't have houses and we didn't have transportation networks the way we do now, there was still this desire for group survival and mating, okay? And you can kind of see that thread if you're interested in studying anthropology or even just history, that would probably come up too, and understanding how cultures have behaved throughout history. One of the things that we find is that no matter what time, no matter what place, no matter what culture, religion, survival and mating have always been a part of the human experience. And so folks who would suggest that this theory would say that is why we help. Those are the 2 things that we do to help. Obviously, that falls under the egoistic argument because you are gaining a direct benefit. Now, think about, again, you could pause here and talk with someone. Why would group survival be a benefit to you? Like, what things could your group provide to you that you can't provide to yourself that would cause you to want them to survive, other than just like not wanting people to die? What else, what other benefits can you think of? Okay. Our second theory is social norms theory. And this theory argues that to fit into our group's expectations of social behavior, we help. So that in some way we're part of a group that expects us to help. That pro-social behavior is part of that group. So the 2 pictures I've given here, the one on the top is Jesus, and this is an adaptation on Netflix, which is a more historically accurate picture of what Jesus looked like. But Christianity, amongst many other religions, would say that helping others, helping the poor, helping the needy, less fortunate, is an expectation of that group. Okay, many churches, they ground themselves in service and going out into the community and helping. I also put a picture of nurses here. We can think of them as a group of people, and I'd say teachers as well, where it's an expectation that you help. Okay, so these are 2 examples of groups where we might see the norm is that you're supposed to help. Again, this is egoistic. This would fit into the egoistic argument because you are gaining your group's approval and love, or not being removed from your group because you are fitting into that norm. Okay. We also have negative state relief, and this is pretty straightforward. We help people to avoid feeling sad or guilty. Okay. Feeling sad just doesn't feel good. And so we help people so that we don't have to feel sad. On the other side, if you drive by someone and you see a homeless person out on the street, you might feel a sense of guilt and you may help them to avoid that feeling of guilt. So, negative state relief means you're getting relief from a negative state, a negative emotion. Again, this is another egoistic argument because you are able to get away from your sadness or away from your guilt because you've helped that person. But there's not just a pure motive to help them. And this last one is empathy altruism. And so this is helping someone in need, right? That's just the basic definition. It's pure and simple. We help because people need help. And this would fall under the pure altruism camp. If you think of the word empathy, right, taking on what someone else is feeling that with them, and depending on who you are, moving to act because you want to relieve that for them. Right, you want to relieve their sadness, their anger, their misfortune, and so I use SpongeBob as an example. I'd say he's probably the closest to a purely altruistic person who just helps out of the desire to help. Okay, so here's our reflection. I want you to think about this, and these are kind of long, so if you need to pause them and read through them, that's totally fine. And I'll move my head in a minute so you can see the bottom. But the first thing I want you to do is consider the debate about whether true altruism is possible. Do you yourself think that it is possible to be purely altruistic? No motives, no emotional bounce backs, no benefits, just pure straight up, they need help. And if so, can you find instances of pure altruism from your own life experiences or that you've seen in the world? The second question is I want you to think about, the idea behind social norm theory. And one of the ideas within this is that groups will actually punish or judge someone for not engaging in pro-social behavior. Have you ever failed to help someone and then thought that people were looking at you negatively, or have you judged someone else for not helping other people? And if you can't find an example from your own life, try to find an example in popular culture where you've seen someone either be kicked out of a group, looked at negatively, or shunned for not helping them out. So that is all I have for you today. I want you to think through these different theories of why we help. Agree with them in the comments, challenge them, find examples that are for or against. Give me your stance on this debate between why people help. If you have a completely different theory or idea, I'd love to hear that too, either on Google Classroom or in the comments. I don't really mind where. But hopefully you think about when you do the reading, in what ways can you help other people, and how can that provide you happiness? See, even the premise of that alone goes back to that egoistic altruism, because I'm telling you that one way to be happy is to help other people, and so you're helping people because it's going to make you happy, which is not bad, right? I don't think that the egoistic altruism argument means that you're a bad person. I think it's just pointing out that we really don't often do things for our own or without some kind of incentive. So let me know what you think. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow for habit number 3.